So we have just seen this rally that happened at City Hall this week, and I was wondering first, Mary Beth, if you could describe what your feeling was about the media coverage of the event.
Um, well, like anything else, it got mixed reviews. Depends upon who was doing the reporting and who was doing the media coverage. In some cases, there was an understanding of what we were trying to accomplish, and in other cases, I believe that there were some people who said that it was rowdy and disrespectful, and a wide variety of things. I think I was called rude at one point. So I think it was mixed reviews in terms of media, but I can honestly say that I have gotten nothing but positive feedback from my membership. I've gotten positive feedback from people in the community. I've gotten positive feedback from my own personal neighbors. And so, I mean, in general, I was absolutely pleased with what happened. I think that we turned out in large numbers and showed that our teachers are frustrated and ready to talk, and hopefully somebody will listen.
So what happened prior to the rally and negotiations that seemed to really catalyze this and light a fire under some people's behinds?
Well, I think that from the beginning, and we started last February, so from the beginning, we had fits and starts, and I'm very transparent with my membership in terms of the progress and the progression of negotiations. And I think that when on January 3rd, the mayor boasted a $5.4 million surplus, and 16 days later, he sent his negotiator to tell me that there was no money for raises for us. That's extremely frustrating. We found it to be disrespectful and a little disingenuous because basically we want to know where $5.4 million went in 16 days. So, and all throughout the process, I've stated before that I didn't believe that we were being taken seriously to begin with. When you send a team of two and the first person gets fired the next day, and then they send a team of two again, and that person takes a job with the governor's office 2 weeks later, and that we've had a variety, a revolving door of people come in from the city side, and our team has been consistent from the get-go in terms of everything that we've asked for. We've been consistent in our membership, so I don't substitute in and out. To me, this isn't like a game. It's not a soccer game or a football game where you tag people in and out. We were serious from the get-go, and I'm not quite sure that the city was.
So let's talk about the healthcare costs that are going to be rising for your teachers and what that looks like.
We co-share our healthcare, which I don't believe a large amount of people understand that we do co-share. I think that they believe that we get our healthcare for nothing, and that is not in fact the case. And in fact, we actually have, based on the contract that happened several years ago, I think it was 2003, 2004, we have actually two sets of people who co-share differently based on if they were hired from 2004 and beyond. So those people pay a significant amount, or co-share a significant amount of money for their health benefits. And those of us who were hired prior to 2004 also pay a pretty large amount for a co-share. And I know the mayor, says that we got a raise in the last contract on the last day of the school year or whatever, but that raise was equivalent to, I think it was $19 a paycheck. So it doesn't even begin to touch the cost of living increases and the increases in healthcare.
So the demarcation between 2004 and after, and that's the firing of the teachers by Tom Brady, correct?
No, that was a different thing. This was a different set of circumstances by which, once again, the PTU came forward and had to basically find their own raises within the contract that they currently had. And what we decided at that time, the membership voted on, was to have anyone who was hired after 2004 pay a different amount for co-share, which, at the time may have sounded like a good idea, but now that we're, in 2017, it's 13 years later, and we have a significant amount of people paying a different co-share. And, that's not good. It's not good for our membership. It's not good for morale. And it's not equitable.
So let's talk about the step system and the impact that would be caused on the highest step by the proposed changes from the mayor.
So we used to have a 10-step salary scale, and we once again in negotiations we moved to a 12-step salary scale. And those of us who are at top step, which would be myself for one, and many other teachers, we only realize a raise in terms of contract negotiations when other people moving up the steps, which we had moved up in previous years, get a step increase plus a raise. So those of us who were there when we took the 0, we got nothing. And at least those people who had a step got their step increase. So there's a lot of nuances to contracts that that cities don't express widely to the citizenship for whatever reason. But it needs to be clear to people in the taxpayers of Providence that we've already taken several pay freezes and we've taken zeros. We took step freezes. We've increased. We went from paying nothing for health care, which obviously is not a realistic thing, but we went from paying nothing for co-sharing health care, and now we're up to, upwards of 20% co-share.
So simultaneous with this sort of moving around and sidestepping of money, you also see within the district spending on Chromebooks, cultural officers, other items, and you raised this the other night at City Hall. I was wondering if you could elaborate further on this.
Sure. So I don't have, and nor does any of my membership have any concerns with any materials that are being purchased that directly impact student learning, because that's what we're here for. At the end of the day, our goal and our focus is to increase student achievement. That being said, when the district wants to find money for their pet projects or the next shiny thing, they find the money. Mr. D'Antuono went off and purchased a $1 million timekeeping system, and that money would be better spent either A, on kids, or B, at least to offer some kind of compensation to teachers. They are well within their rights as management to maintain and assure that their employees are arriving to work on time. That is in their purview as management. So why we had to invest in $1 million timekeeping operation to have checks and balances on the lowest paid, clerks and secretaries and teachers, it's just nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. It's counterintuitive to what we're doing.
Right.
And the culture coordinators, I don't have a personal issue with culture coordinators. That's not my concern. My concern is that if you're telling us there's no money for raises, then how is it that you found $500,000 to pay culture coordinators or these new positions to go into the schools, and you're going to pay them at a salary that takes most tenured teachers 10 years to get to? What is that saying to those teachers?
So one of the issues that arose last year this time, and I was curious what sort of developments you've seen along the last, now it's 13 months or 14 almost, is the expansion of Achievement First and other charters in the city.
And the mayor, first of all, the mayor sits on the charter school board of Achievement First. So I personally find that to be a conflict of interest when you, as mayor, are making decisions that will adversely impact the financial outcomes of the city. If you're all in for education, you need to be all in for public education, because the majority of our students are in our public schools. And to take $35 million away from public schools to promote your charter that you are on the board of, to me, is unconscionable. It's always in the back of our minds, and don't think that it's lost on any teacher that he made that decision to expand Achievement First at the expense of our kids in our districts. That always plays in the back of our mind. I just think that there are other things that we're focused on, including, the state of Central High School and the mold issue that we have, the ongoing mold issue there, discipline and the DCYF mandated reporting. So, we have a lot on our plate, make no mistake about it.
Absolutely.
So it's not that we've gotten off the Achievement First. It's always been there. It's just that there are things that are adversely impacting our teaching and learning right this minute that, at the end of the day, we all know that he's going to do exactly what he wants to do with Achievement First, which is expand it and make himself and his charter school proponents and Gina Raimondo happy. That's the bottom line.
So I was curious, you previously said that you've had a good working relationship with the superintendent. I wonder where he has been in the midst of all of this.
So in the beginning of negotiations, the superintendent was not part of negotiations. And I don't pretend to know why. I think he has his reasons for not being party to that right now. And we continue to have a good relationship. I call him and we talk on a regular basis. We meet monthly. Because he knows that under my leadership, my teachers will continue to do what's best for kids. What happened Tuesday night was an adult action that occurred after school hours, which was in no way, shape, or form meant to impact our kids, and that's why we did it. So I'm sure that there are people, including the superintendent, that are concerned that maybe what would happen in the future would impact our classrooms and our teaching. But like I said over and over again, in February, so shortly ago, that we were all fired, that Monday morning, we all showed up to work. So if anyone wants to make the stretch and say that we're not about kids, then they have short-term memory problems, because we are about kids, and we did return, despite being fired, to work and did everything that we were supposed to do.
We're kind of in a situation right now nationally because of the administration that we have in office, with Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump as the president, but also the behavior of the law enforcement agencies towards immigrant populations. I was wondering if you had any messages to teachers, students, and families in the close of this interview that would touch on the community aspect of this.
So we make every effort, and we will continue to make efforts in the coming weeks and months to reach out to our community. Our teachers always engage with their families. We have, professional development sessions. We go to PTO meetings. We love to hear from our families, and we're going to be doing more formalized listening sessions, if you will, with our families in the communities in the coming weeks and months. But, that's another thing that people don't understand. A lot of our students are impacted by, ICE and the threat of having their family members deported, or even themselves being deported. And so that's why it's critical that we stay focused and let our students know that they are welcome in our schools, and that we will do our very best to protect them at all costs while they're in our care.
Are there any points you wanted to bring up in closing?
No, I just want to say that I think it's, I think it's sad that we have gotten to this point. And I also find it interesting that people would call me rude and whatever else they called me in the past couple of days. We are not an organization, as you know, that comes out and fights every little thing. We're not constantly complaining. We're not constantly in the news as rabble-rousers or people like that. So people have to realize that in order for us to have gotten to the point that we got to on Tuesday, that a lot of things have happened to us. And quite frankly, if the mayor and the administration at City Hall don't listen to us, this will just be the first in a long series of events that occur until we get the respect that we believe that we deserve.